Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And today I am so excited because we're going to be talking about one of those kind of hardcore business things. Sometimes we go off on flights of fancy and we talk about all sorts of things, but this is going to be one of those subjects, and we'll talk about other things too, but things that every business pretty much kind of needs to do on occasion, and some need to do it a lot. And so with that, please join me in welcoming Chad Reid to our program today. Hi, Chad. How are you doing?
Doing quite well. Thanks, Deb. Great to be here.
Perfect. Well, let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we will dive into this. So Chad Reid is VP of Marketing and Communications at Jotform, a leading online form software where he's worked since 2014. He holds a master's degree in communication from Purdue University, that little school, and he lives in Oakland, California with his wife and cats. So again, Chad, how are you, and welcome.
I'm doing great. Apologize in advance if I cough.
COVID voice, you were saying.
Got a little COVID recovery, but doing well otherwise. Got my energy back, so yeah, it's great.
Very cool. I love it. Well, I always like to ask my guests how they got to where they are today, because I think it's always very interesting, at least to me. So tell us a little bit about where you got to where you are today.
Just blind luck sometimes. I half kid, but if you looked at my background and how I got to here, it didn't seem like it wasn't a straight path. We'll put it that way. But I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, where I attended the University of Cincinnati, and just hung around there for a good 6 years, as many underachieving undergrads do on their path to their education. And then I graduated and migrated west, and at the time for completely different reasons. I was on the rowing team at the University of Cincinnati and wanted to pursue a career coaching rowing. And shortly after I arrived in Oakland, California, actually 5 months after I arrived, the program that I moved here to coach folded. It was a nonprofit, and they didn't have the funding to continue. And then rowing is one of those things where, or coaching is one of those things where you kind of have to move to where the jobs are.
Right.
I wasn't.
And rowing makes it even more difficult. It's not like you're going to say Colorado.
Precisely. Yeah, it's not even every city or town has that. So I wasn't going to just find the next club in Oakland, California. I mean, I could have maybe potentially done that, but it's not exactly a clear path. So I was like, well, what do I do? I had a journalism degree and a history degree. So I was plugging it into Craigslist at the time, and like just journalism. What does that pull up, right? And it was marketing. And I always had a bit of an interest in marketing as it was. So I took my first entry-level job, which led to like a slightly better entry-level job, which led to a slightly better entry-level job, and then kind of tripped forward. And then, in 2014, honestly, I had the good fortune to stumble across Jotform. Our CEO was building out our Turkish-based CEO, and it's a Turkish-based company. He wanted to build out a San Francisco team for marketing. And I came in and met with him, and to be honest, truthfully honest at the time, I was like, well, we'll just see what's out there.
Right, we'll see how it goes.
See how it goes. The homepage wasn't really much at the time. And some of the language wasn't as crisp, but they hadn't had a marketing team, so there were a lot of like,
it was a little geek speak.
Yeah, exactly. but then I went in and, the bones of the company were really strong, and the CEO was really smart and friendly and engaging, and just gave great vibes. So I did it, and now it's 8.5 years later, and which in like the tech world, staying in a job for
you're
8.5
like
years
the old man that's there.
completely, and so much has changed. Within the company, and with marketing in general, that it's interesting to reflect. I feel like I've had different jobs, and I have had different jobs just at Jotform. My roles changed considerably. I wasn't a VP level then. I didn't have people working, as many people working alongside me and everything. But it's been, like I said, it's a bit of luck, right? Because I think I was a little directionless maybe early on. I knew kind of what I wanted, but I wasn't really sure how to get there. And then I kind of grew up with Jotform, and I got in early enough, and the company's really taken off like a rocket ship, and it's been great to be a part of that, and not only be a part of it, but be someone who's helped get us to where we are. So it's been great. Yeah.
I love it. And it is obviously a company that is growing. And unfortunately in the news, we've heard about, some tech companies that have had some struggles. And, my guess is, when you're talking Google, when you're talking Spotify, and there's one other big one, if I remember right, that's laying some folks off.
All of them. Salesforce.
Yeah. Things got weird during COVID. And I think they really hired up, because we all went, hey, we're 100% online now. And now that people are back out in the real world, they went, okay, maybe we need to downsize again.
Yeah, it's terrifying, right? And it's hard to work in tech and not be, alarmed by the headlines, especially being in San Francisco. We go in a hybrid capacity, so at least half the time that I'm working, I'm passing by some of these buildings, and
the emptiness of some of them.
Oh boy, yeah, it's unreal. But they all say the same thing. We experienced a lot of that same growth during the pandemic. We were certainly one of the lucky ones. But our service became exponentially more popular when people were taking their businesses online, and they were replacing paper work, in-person workflows with things that needed, so Jotform as an online form solution was really, really impactful for a lot of businesses. But I think I want to say, like, one of the things that has always been a hallmark about Jotform, and I think that maybe gave us a little bit of a degree of protection, is that we've always been a bootstrapped company. Which is even more unusual for a company our size, at our growth rate and everything else. But a lot of over hiring, I think, is also, venture capital can really,
when you've got money, you're like, let's spend it.
Yeah, exactly. $300-400 million just shows up in your account. You're gonna hire explosively, and not that we haven't added headcounts, but we've done it very organically. Our CEO has always had a philosophy of having a year's worth of money in the bank before he commits to hiring someone.
Nice.
Which is great. Yeah. So, whenever we do hire, it's always a sign of really organic growth, and unfortunately, I think we've kept from over hiring, but boy, we don't scare as easy, I suppose, too, as if there's a down quarter, or people are, we don't have someone above a board sitting there like, we need to do something about these returns.
Yeah. When you have to be fiscally responsible to a board and shareholders, it is very different.
Yeah, completely. But oof, it's scary. I mean, our two most direct competitors, they've experienced some layoffs. We have an ecosystem of partners, and we get notices from them all the time that they're letting staff go in some really popular and exciting products, and so I don't think anyone's immune. So it's a crazy world out there. Right?
Yeah, it's also one of those, though, where at the same time, tech is just incredible to be watching what's going on. And the changes and the adaptations now that we are back in a hybrid. I think, obviously it forced a lot of changes very quickly. When people, I would, I laugh. I home office for, and have for many years, but most people were in an office on Friday and home on Monday and went, okay. Wow.
I know.
And so, everybody had to think, okay, how are we going to adapt? And of course, at that time we were told 2 weeks and we all went, yeah,
Yeah.
right. And of course, I think we all thought couple months,
Right.
and had no idea, obviously, that, now we're over 2 years out,
Yeah.
that things are, what they're doing. And I think, we got used to being able to do things online, whether we're going back into an office or, not. I mean, just, and so tech companies that help facilitate that, and which is what you guys do. I think it's a great opportunity because people aren't wanting to go in. They aren't wanting people to make sales calls, all these various things that we did in person. If I can fill out a form, even if it just means somebody's going to call me, I'm more than likely going to do that.
Completely. Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you where we saw areas of growth. And again, some of this is luck, just good fortune. We weren't anticipating a global pandemic when we built in certain features. But we added HIPAA compliance as a
I saw that. I thought that was very interesting that you have forms that are HIPAA compliant, because that's an incredibly tricky situation.
It is, yeah, and it's something that we added it maybe a year or two before the pandemic, 2018, 2019, something like that, and we offered it to very little fanfare at the time. We tried to put some muscle behind the launch, but unless you were certain healthcare providers, it wasn't. It was just kind of there on the back burner, and then.
But then all of a sudden, we were having virtual doctor appointments.
Oh boy, yeah, exactly. Virtual doctor's appointments, and just the intake process. People, any kind of medical practice typically had a paper form for medical intake or patient intake, medical history, those kind of things, bill pay. I mean, there were a myriad of use cases that all of a sudden we just slotted right in. So we saw, just unexpected but enormous growth, and just having the right technology in place. And then another example was QR codes. We had around the same
they'd
time
almost gone out of favor, and then
really, yeah, right, yeah. And we had this almost throwaway feature that we announced a year or two again before the pandemic, where you could publish a form as a publishing option to a form. You could publish it as a QR code. So if you you could throw a form up somewhere, and someone would or a QR code, and someone could take out their phone, use that, the form pops up, and then we almost couldn't even. We released it, but without even a great idea of use case at the time. Well, that came to us pretty quick during the pandemic, where people would wait outside of a business, and they had a check-in process, and there was a form there. In fact, I encountered ourselves. We went to a veterinary clinic, and then right in the parking lot there was a huge banner with a printed QR code that I could clearly identify was one of ours. And then they had their whole patient intake, and so just one of the reasons, I guess another one of the reasons we were just well positioned, and fortunately we were able to ride the storm because of some of our products.
And we liked the convenience. There are obviously still, everybody likes in person, all of those things, but I had a doctor's appointment today. I did all my online check-in. Actually I did most of it yesterday, because it was confirming what medications you were on, had you been on a trip, all that standard stuff that we used to sit there and fill out, when we got to the doctor's office. And then when I walked in, I clicked the button today that said, I am here. And it immediately, when I walked up to the front desk, it had told them that I was there. And so it was, so it was fast, it was efficient, and people, like I said, we got used to that. And now it's, if you don't see it, you're kind of like, well, what the heck?
Yeah, I know, right? It's one of those positive changes. I guess we have different expectations for what technology should be able to do for us today. And yeah, it was wild. Internally too, it brought about some great, like as I mentioned, that we have a really strong Turkish presence, and during that time, it kind of flattened everything out, where we weren't in our office, they weren't in their office. Everyone was communicating over Zoom. So time zones are always tricky when you're on the opposite side of the globe. But from a communication standpoint, if there were overlapping hours, it was actually quite a bit easier to wake up and not have to worry about commute times getting in the way of
saved, especially you're in San Francisco. I mean, it saved an hour at least.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah. Commute times here are pretty brutal. As I'm sure they are in
my
Atlanta
husband's gained
area.
at least, he's gained about an hour and a half each day.
Wow. Yeah. That's no small thing. It's a solid hour for us. I actually mapped, wrote it out once, or did the calculation. I think it's a 55-minute average commute for everyone in the San Francisco office. So that being said, we are, we are moving forward in a hybrid capacity. So we're trying to ride that balance of, seeing each other and collaborating in person,
right?
But also realizing that, not everyone has to meet every day about everything. We have a lot of individual contributor roles.
Oh, we got rid of a bunch of meetings, which is not a bad thing, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But yeah.
Now, one of the things you did was you rebranded, and you mentioned when you started the website, but you recently rebranded. Was that in the middle of COVID or?
Yeah, I mean, in the middle, whatever that ends up being.
I know that's true. I'm not sure there's a middle.
At some point during COVID, we rebranded. Yeah, we did. It was October of 2021. So it was when we were working entirely remote. We hadn't committed to going back to the office at that point.
Why did you decide? Because a lot of companies, they get set, this is what we're doing. We're never changing anything. So why did you guys decide to rebrand?
Oh, we were so overdue. The short answer. I think we'd kept our previous branding, I think from 2009, and some version of that up until 2021. So it felt like it. If you looked at it, it sort of looked like a 2009 version. So there was the visual component, and then there was the language component where I think how we were positioning ourselves, and we kind of used the same boilerplate and copy and ways to describe the company that were just very different now based on the capabilities of the company than they were when we originally had that concept in 2009. So it was overdue. It's funny, I think I was just talking to my wife about this last night, because her company is considering doing a rebrand, and I kind of looked at their page and I'm like, why? Some companies are really trigger happy with rebranding. I think they assume that it's what their customers want.
Right. They have to think we're fresh and new and innovative.
Completely. Yeah. But I think a lot of people fall into that trap because they see their brand all the time. They, and I think they grow tired of it, but they're, not everyone is their employee or, leadership where you're interacting with the brand. So I think more companies are seem inclined to overdo it or, do it too often and something like that. We've had some of our competitors and our partner companies rebrand multiple times in the time in between when we actually did. Some more successful than others, but I've always taken note of that. We're just sort of asking why, like their previous brand was spectacular. What were they thinking? So I think I tend to think that more companies over rebrand than underdo it, but in our case it was definitely overdue, and boy, that was a process. I think as we've gotten bigger and bigger, and we started out the process by reaching out to a design firm, really quite a good one, or more creative agency. They have like holistic concepts and messaging blocks and all those things, and we spent a good amount of time with them, and they did these great user research surveys to kind of like sort of get a sense of like what the brand essence was, and they used that as sort of a launching pad. And then they came back with these great concepts that they delivered to us, and then our CEO kind of looked at it and was like, "Yeah, these are good, but I bet we could do better internally." So
you're like, huh?
it was my initial thought. I was like, I was so impressed. I'm a I'm not a designer by trade, so I think it's easy to impress me too. But I looked and I was really blown away. And then I was like, okay, well, we'll see what I did get behind the fact that we have very talented in-house designers. So we commissioned them, and then I was really blown away by what they did. And it was a month long, honestly, from start to finish, it was over a year of back and forth, and the design hack weeks for our designers and around the world, and certainly the time that we spent with the agency. And then it was not an accident when we ended up on what we ended up with, just because it went through so many iterations. And I hope that for your audience, it's that it wouldn't be the same process, if they get to that point. For us, I think there's certainly a lot of hands involved, and we placed a lot of importance on it, but certainly was exciting, and I'm very happy with what we ended up with, and it still feels new to me. It was
and it's easy, and it's clean, and it's bright. I mean, you guys, you use primary colors. Now, did you roll it out in bits and pieces, or did you wait and just go ta-da?
Oh, very much a ta-da. Oh my gosh, we did almost like a billboard takeover in San Francisco.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah.
I've seen it when people are like, okay, we're going to do a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit here. And then of course what happens is by the time they get to the very end, they're starting over. We're like, well, we don't like how that works,
Yeah, for sure. We did so much obviously behind the scenes, and the list of, as I mentioned, Jotform's been around for a while. I think, we were started in 2006. So we have page after page after page after page after page that needed to be rebranded. So that was the daunting part. I remember looking at the full list of pages that we had to rebrand, and all of our public profiles anywhere that we have, not just social media, but the review sites of the world, HR sites of the world, just anywhere.
Because even if it's just something as simple as, say, a logo, if people see one and then a different one, they're like, wait a minute, I have the wrong company.
Oh, completely. Yeah, completely. So it was, we treated it as we would a major product launch, which I think is
well, the product is you. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah, very much so. But it was cool, and that was the first time we'd tested billboards, and that was just a fun experience. I think it's a little bit, it's a more of a vanity thing than for us than it would be like a true ROI machine, although we're still testing that. But it was very cool to just from even an employee morale perspective to just be around town, and then all of a sudden you spot our company name on a very prominent highway billboard in downtown San Francisco. So it felt pretty special. I kind of felt like, we landed. We kind of made
real
it
now.
Yeah, we're real now. In fact, as I'm like talking, I keep looking down, but the company gave us a little.
You got little baby billboards.
Yeah, little baby billboards. Yeah, it was such a cool touch when they gave us those. So we just want to be bold and logo forward, and and it was cool. It was a great experience to be a part of, and it sort of took us, I felt like, to the next evolution of the company, and it felt like we were ready to turn a page, and we did it.
I love it. Yeah. I've been with companies before that have rebranded, and it's been interesting. Some of the stuff that you think is really going to be an issue, people are like, yeah, whatever. And then other things, they're like, I don't like that shade of blue.
Right.
And you fight over this shade of blue for days and weeks. And then somebody goes, can we do green?
Yeah. I think we probably had a bit of that, to be honest. And I think fortunately we kind of closed the feedback a little bit to people who were very, very know how to speak design language. And then our CEO's got a very keen design eye himself too. So he kept rejecting ones that I really liked.
Oh no.
But I trusted that, and then we ended up with one that we all liked. So
Right.
in the end, it worked out. It worked out well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's when you do major projects that I think one of the hardest things is to figure out who exactly really does need input. Because everybody thinks
Yeah.
they do. But some of the funny ones are that the people that you never would think to provide input might have some of the best ideas. And so you can't just say, well, we're going to put it in this little box and only 5 of us are going to work on it. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting, and just the process of going through things. One of the ones that I did, it was one where like everybody thought they needed input. And and it was like, ugh. And so I finally learned that most of them really didn't want to do anything. They just wanted to be on the list.
Sure.
And so, so I learned because I was manager of corporate communications, and we were doing some things. And so I would include everybody. And the way I did it was then I would say, I need your input by Friday at 2. If I have not heard from you by Friday at 2, I will assume you approve, agree, whatever. And so then they were like, okay, they were in the loop, but they really didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just major projects are just yikes. But yeah, it's always fun, like when you do the ta-da and you get back feedback from your clients, from your customers, and they're like, wow, this is really cool.
Yeah, for sure. We're big believers in the ta-da. I think we try to have something to announce pretty frequently. I think in I don't know how many announcements we made in 2022, but it was a lot. It was more than at least every other month we had some sort of our newsletter started with announcing something, and that's mostly a reflection of our product teams just continuing to find improvements and innovations, and some launches are bigger than others, but it kind of always gives us a ta-da. So certainly the rebrand was a big part of that too, but it's great. Keeps us fresh,
It does.
Yeah.
Well, let's take a step back, because we probably have some people going, what is Jotform?
Oh yeah, good question.
And so tell us, put on your best marketing hat there, and tell us exactly what it is.
Yeah, so Jotform is at its core, it's a great way to create and publish online forms, and that was sort of how we started. Something that you don't need any technical skill or coding to be able to deploy,
because you guys do all that.
Right. Well, not me. I don't
Yeah.
code, but someone.
the really nerdy guys down the hall that are the really good people.
Yeah, people much smarter than me at our company are making that easy for people like me and all of our users to create forms. And I say that, but it's really like forms are so critical. They're so you use forms, and I filled out a form to with all the information before the podcast, but it's any type of organization. It gives them a way to collect the critical information that they need to move forward.
Right.
So whether that's a consulting business or a legal practice or a medical practice, any kind of small business. And then for us, it's small business all the way to major universities, to governments, to Fortune 500s. I think we scale, we can be within an organization, but we start at a real base level. A solopreneur who's working out of the garage can get a lot of value out of Jotform, and that's always kind of a better bread and butter.
Right.
And then we've layered on, been around since 2006. We're nearing 20 million users
wow,
around the globe. Yeah. And then we've layered on so many productivity features and products over the years that it's really more than forms at this point. It's something that you can manage your information, you can create reports, you can do some pretty advanced conditional logics and automations and approvals, and it just something to really make you and your company more productive. So that's Jotform in a nutshell. Yeah.
And, it was interesting when I was looking through your site because we all, I think, we fill them out, but we all, in many cases, our business has forms. I mean, like you mentioned,
Mhm.
the form that we have that, my guests complete. And, and it was, it's just a basic WordPress press plugin that we use to create the form. It works okay. And I mean, it gets me what I need. And I don't, it's not like I need hundreds of people submitting data. If
Mhm.
I did, the form I use would not work because it's just not quite what we really want. And I think that's one of the things that so many people get caught up in is they don't realize that they need to put themselves in the shoes of the person who's completing the form.
Oh, totally.
And what are they going to do? I mean, like we've all done forms where they don't make sense, they don't work, they're asking questions. You're like, wait a minute, now why are you asking? All of those various things. And then, of course, you have to keep in mind, what do you need the data for?
Mhm.
Does it really matter if you're getting somebody's zip code? Well, it might if you're considering advertising, things like that. But
Yeah.
it's long gone are the days where we had the simple, basic contact form, and then we would manually type them into a database somewhere, right?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, and you bring up a great point. Not to take this conversation and talk about forms for the remaining 30 minutes, but
We're
but
going to do that a little bit because I'm like, oh my God, I need some help.
yeah. But there are some best practices out there. I think it's an older book now, but the tenets in it really carry over. But I think her name was Caroline Jarrett. She's like the self-proclaimed queen of forms.
Ah,
She has some great points and
mhm,
that are future proof. And
mhm,
one of them is just kind of treating your form as a conversation, and
mhm,
it has to have some sort of a flow to it,
mhm,
and like sensibly the questions are stacked next to
mhm,
ones that sort of make sense, and because there's a user experience component to
mhm,
filling out a form, and you don't want to do anything that's jarring.
mhm,
I think one key principle that that's in the book that I've always thought too is just, and you touched on it with the zip code example, but just asking things that you need, but
mhm.
not necessarily want. There's a big
Right.
difference. You have to draw the
Mhm,
line somewhere, and there tends to be a drop off rate
mhm,
with people's attention,
mhm.
and you ultimately want them to
Right.
complete the form.
Well, and sometimes it's a matter of you need to explain it. I'm
Mhm.
always really annoyed when I'm in a store and they say, "What's your zip code?" And I almost always look at
Right.
them and say, "Why?"
Yeah.
And the poor little
Exactly.
sales clerk is like, "Because my computer won't go forward." you know, and I understand from a marketing perspective, really, why they're doing it.
Yeah.
But she needed to, or he needed to be able to say, it helps us in our targeting of our advertising and blah blah blah.
Totally.
And so yeah, when you're asking sometimes for things, it helps just to give a short little description as to why you're asking for it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Reasons for why, and then
Mhm,
also, instructions on how to fill out the
mhm,
form are really, really handy. From a form creator standpoint, these are things that don't take that much extra time,
mhm,
but they just add so much.
mhm,
You know, yeah, they make the user experience
mhm.
for the form filler profoundly better. So,
Right,
yeah,
right.
great point. Great
Mhm.
point.
And then of course, as I said, we've all had the forms that don't work.
Yeah.
You get stuck in the, I had somebody the other day that we were doing something and she had filled out the form and and thought it had submitted. Well, it was telling her in tiny little print, that's the key, tiny little print, that she had typed something wrong or something was
Uh-huh.
missing or whatever. And she was a little bit more mature. So she was missing the fact that, and it just popped up and was gone, incomplete or whatever,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so, and she very nicely contacted me and said something didn't work. Here's what happened. Did I do it? Did I not? And I realized, part of it, like we were saying, when you're designing this, who are you designing it for? Are you designing it for somebody who is young and filling it out on their phone? And so you can do tiny little print. Or is it for a different demographic that, needs to, and colors and things like that too. I mean, people get so caught up in the, ooh, let's do this, color and that color. And it's like, if I can't see it, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Oh man, good points.
and what I loved was, looking on your website, you've got bunches of templates, because
Mm.
that's the other thing is, you said you weren't creative. I'm not creative, but we want our forms and our website, I mean, all those things to look cool. And so you guys have already done that by having all of these templates.
Yeah, we have a lot. We have so many templates. I remember, and we did when I joined. I was so impressed by that and surprised. And we've kind of built them two different ways over the years. And one of them is we have a team that dedicates to making really fantastic templates nowadays. But early on, we allowed users to upload one of their favorite forms to our template gallery.
Huh.
Which was, of course, required a little bit more quality control on our end, in terms of like what they're actually publishing to our template gallery. But the marketing side of that was a stroke of brilliance that I credit our CEO long before me. But because those all have SEO search value, and so when people are looking for a random template or type of form, they don't necessarily know that they're looking for Jotform, but
Right.
we've had whole verticals that we became really popular with because we just were ranking really well with a template that presumably some other user uploaded years ago. And anyway, little side note on the templates, but yeah, and the primary purpose obviously is a great resource for anyone who's signing up for Jotform. They have an ocean from which to pick, but it's also been a nice little boon from the marketing side and growth side. Yeah.
Oh yeah, because like I said, I'm not creative, but even if I can look at something and replicate it, I can do that. But to just come up with something, I'm like, no. So then I end up with name, phone number,
Right.
email, and and it looks okay, but that's the thing, is it just looks okay.
Yeah, for sure. I've gotten better over the years. I remember, some of my earlier times at Jotform, I was like, well, I'm just gonna, on a quiet day. I don't have quiet days anymore, by the way. But back then, in the quiet days, I'm just gonna create a form. I don't know what for, and I just had a whole account worth of random forms. But I kind of got in the habit of like trying different form features, asking different questions, and then finding use cases for it. And then I get that same level of excitement that as people do when they have a notification on social media or someone messages them, as when I get a notification that someone fills out a form. So it's a little addicting, to be honest with you. When
oh yeah, you're like, oh, they liked it, they used it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's fun. Forms are fun.
Oh yeah, and like I said, we use them. And so that the thing is that we need to make them that something that is valuable to both sides. Earlier today, I was creating a form. A nonprofit organization that I'm affiliated with, we're going to be offering a scholarship. So
cool.
we were creating this form. And, and I mean, there were some things in it that are, your basic stuff, name, address, where you're going to school, all of those things. And so the committee had created it in Microsoft Word. So I had this great document, that they had gone through and done. And so then I brought it into your competitor. And so, that's, Adobe is very well known for all of this. And so, and I do have the paid version of Adobe where I can create forms. And, so I go through and I'm bebopping along and and I got to, it's a 4-page form. I was at the very end and it locked up.
Oh,
had
no.
I saved? No. So user error. And then, now granted, when I had to redo it, it was pretty quick because I went, oh, do. But, and I know each platform has its benefits and its drawbacks, and some people are going to love some and some people are going to hate some. I invariably, when I'm working on an Adobe form, am having to Google to figure out how to do something because I can't figure it out. But I mean, like I make a form like once every 6 months. And so I can't remember all of the things.
Right.
But that's where having templates to at least start with is such a benefit. But that actually brought me to a question regarding this form, because it's a scholarship application,
Mm-hmm.
and so many times when we're doing forms, people still want to print them, or you might want them to print them and mail it, submit it, do whatever. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we did, and again, it depends on kind of sometimes your demographics. My mother will never fill anything out online, bless her heart. She's 90 years old. And so she's going to want to print it. So are your forms printable, or do they have to be filled out online?
We have that as an option, but it's
Mhm.
not something that's kind of a legacy feature and something that we're trying to get away from, to be honest.
Mhm. And
I
that's,
think,
and it's because the users are getting more skilled.
yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
And I think people's, well, we go back to the COVID
Mhm.
conversation of our expectations of what
Mhm.
technology is
Mhm.
enabling us to do. We nearly have a paperless office, for the exception of a couple of our
Mhm.
content editors who prefer marking
Mhm.
things up in
Mhm.
Word docs as opposed
Right.
to online,
Mhm.
which I appreciate. But I haven't printed something in. I haven't printed. I'll put it this way: I don't have my computer at work
Mhm.
synced up to the printer, and on the extremely rare occasions when
Mhm.
I need to print something, I just have ask someone
You
at the
email
office
it to
to.
them and you have them print it.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
so out of my, and that's
Mhm.
this is the first place I've worked where that's been
Mhm.
the case. I think it's partly a
Mhm.
result of just the how technology has changed the
Right.
workplace.
Mhm.
But it would run counter to us in a lot of ways,
Mhm.
doubling down or even making any more expansion of offering
Mhm.
and printing forms, because
Mhm.
we we save people paper,
Right.
and that's one of
Mhm.
our biggest calling cards, is that
Mhm.
you can replace your paper and your printer and your ink and your storage
Mhm.
by using something like Jotform, and
Mhm.
ultimately save money, even if you're paying for one of our more premium
Mhm.
plans. That tends to be the case.
Mhm.
But it's you kind of, it reminds me of a broader point in that our biggest competitor is paper.
Mhm.
Our biggest competitor are pens and printers, and
Mhm.
because I think people are always going to knee-jerk react and think
Mhm.
that if there's a form that it's something that
Right.
they're
Like
printing and
like my
filling.
guest form for this podcast. I print it. But I
Hmm.
print it because then I sit here and make notes either
Yeah,
before or after. And I've never thought, gee, could I do that online?
yeah,
Probably.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, and I totally get that.
Mhm.
Yeah, especially notes
Mhm.
and annotating submissions
Mhm.
after, and those types of things. I could definitely see the
Mhm.
value, but yeah, it's just different ways that
Right.
people work,
Right.
and yeah, it's fascinating.
Right. Well, and of course the big thing now, and we've talked about it, is we're not in a physical location anymore.
Right.
And as and it used to be, when I was in an office, you printed something and it got clipped to a clipboard or whatever, and that printed version got circulated, and
Hmm.
everybody wrote their notes on it, and then pretty soon you got back this very dog-eared tired piece of paper. But we can't do that anymore. And so I was looking on your website, and you have teams, and so it makes it nice, or you have products that are for teams, so it can I'm just massacring this. Explain more about how one form can multiple people can be doing what they need to be doing with it.
Yeah. So we just launched Jotform Teams just a couple months ago, and
Mm-hmm.
it's an enterprise, most predominantly enterprise feature,
Mm-hmm.
because it's built for multiple accounts
Right.
within an organization.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
we use it internally, and it's really
Mm-hmm.
been useful. Sometimes multiple people need to be able to
Mm-hmm.
edit a form or
Mm-hmm.
view submissions to a form.
Mm-hmm.
So we manage all of our requests internally.
Mm-hmm.
We're huge on request forms,
Mm-hmm.
and from our marketing department. There's a form for social media requests and
Mm-hmm.
design requests and content requests and
Mm-hmm.
copywriting requests and video requests. So
Mm-hmm.
we every single day these forms get filled,
Mm-hmm.
and
And they
that
need input from a variety of people.
correct. Yeah, completely. And with a lot of these forms too, just the ability for multiple people to be able to
Mm-hmm.
access information or to log into the same shared accounts and pull up a table with everything and be able to like edit something or, you know, whatever the case may be. And there's different levels of permissions, but it ends up being invaluable because oftentimes these single forms have multiple stakeholders. So it's good to have shared ownership.
Right.
So yeah, it's great. You know, it's kind of turned Jotform into a more of a collaboration tool and giving it more collaboration capabilities. And it's definitely something that as we launched it, like internally, it was great to be able to use. That's always our you know, how I get most excited about the products that we launched that I use. And it's definitely been something that's made our life easier, my life easier. So it's great. Yeah.
You know, and like I said, sometimes there are things that multiple people need to look at. You know, and so, you know, say somebody is sending in a request for information. It might need to go to 3 different people to get, you know, what you need. And so it's best that, you know, it's all online. You can make your edits, your comments, all of those things. And then the person who requested the information gets the best possible information. You know, the worst thing is when, you know, you say, hey, I need this, and the wrong person responds, or, you know, you get the wrong thing, all sorts of things like that. And so by having this, it's able to kind of make the rounds before you're making a response.
Yeah, no, totally.
I love it. So yeah, I think one of the things too is I don't think people understand, you know, we all know the basic contact form. You know, you give your name, maybe your address, your phone number, and your email. What, you know, obviously you guys have expanded on that. So what are some examples of how forms really can be used?
Oh boy. How much time do we got?
We got about 10 minutes.
Deb, well, I can talk forms. I'll just go into some of the ones that I use because in this exploration of like, how can we use forms? I've been, you know, I started implementing forms for friends of mine if they have a small business or if they're an author and they want to build a site or whatever. But request forms are really, really key. I kind of alluded to those. But I started using them for event registration as well. Even if it's an event I'm holding, you know, if I have a barbecue in the backyard, I'll still use Jotform for that. I used it before my wedding for to get everyone's address. You know, I don't have physical addresses anymore, or I wasn't even sure where to put those. But the idea with or the beauty of using a single form is you can kind of serve as a funnel. Like I send the same link out to everyone, whether it's on social media or however. If I have their phone number, then I'm texting it to them. If it's on email, but then whoever's filling it out, it all just gets compiled into the same
in this nice database, so you can print or do whatever you're wanting to do.
Yeah, exactly. And it saved.
And you're not going, I can't read this. Because somebody sent it to you, wrote it down.
Right. And it was in the format that I wanted because I made the form. I didn't have to have them responding back to me in that channel with the email or with the address, and then me going back and logging in and then copy and pasting it and then putting it into the database. It was all just filtering automatic. It was automation. And it saved an enormous amount of time. And then of course, like the wedding registry or the invitation service that we're using, they're asking for a CSV that we can upload. Well, I already had a CSV because I used the form, and anyway, small example, but it obviously saved a lot of time. We use Jotform internally for these workout or reading or workout challenges that we do, where people can kind of like, we have a 3-month team-based challenges, and I don't know, these are like quirky use cases, but it's kind of to illustrate that you can really use it for anything. And I truly believe that any role within any organization can use forms and do their job better. And it's not something that I thought I would be saying when I started at Jotform, but some 600 or 700 forms later that I've created and used over the years, it's I truly believe that you can get a lot done with them.
Right. Yeah. And of course the thing is, it is saving time. You're getting the information in the format that you need. and you're not wasting time by going back and saying, hey, we missed this, we didn't get this, whatever. Like it is really the process of saving time and getting
Yeah,
exactly what you need from whoever it is that's submitting the form.
totally. Yeah, reducing the back and forth.
Mhm.
That's what it's all about. And yeah, saving time.
Right. Yeah, because as the customer, the friend, the whoever, you get annoyed. Especially if it's like, I told you that. And I'm like,
Yeah,
but yeah, it streamlines that process too.
yeah, yeah. To the point where I'm frustrated now if someone doesn't have a form and I have to email or text a contractor
Mm-hmm.
for for fixing something, and then
Mm-hmm.
they respond back like, "Hey, can we get your blah 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 blah?" And I'm like, I sent that to you in an email, but you
Mm-hmm.
don't have that when you're text. I don't know. There's
Right.
always a
Mm-hmm.
yeah. They didn't get the information
Mm-hmm.
up front, or they're asking me follow up questions that they should have asked the first time, or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
things like that. But
Right.
slowly, ever so slowly, we're gonna take over the world, and no one's gonna worry about
I love it.
these hassles. Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is you integrate with all of these things. I mean, I'm looking on your website and it just kind of pops up here. Zoom, Google Calendar, all these things that we use all the time, Dropbox, HubSpot, it's just again, it makes it seamless. And I think what's nice is if you're a small business owner and you're setting up your website or doing whatever, you're thinking, I need this, but I can't do it.
Right.
And but like like me with my form that I was creating today, I'm like, oh, I can do this, and I got it done, and
Yeah.
but it would I probably could have done it a lot faster on your website because I could have, I'm sure I could have cut and pasted the text that they had written that said, here's the criteria for applying for the scholarship, blah, blah. I could have put that
Mhm.
in there, and then it would have said, and we would have got exactly what we wanted. But yeah, and so it's just, again, it's saving time. And then back to the whole templates thing, I'm not having to stop and think, okay, how do I want it to look? And so I love that concept.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And the integration is a good thing to bring up because
Mhm.
you
I'm
know, forms
assuming
are
integrates well with WordPress and things like that.
yeah, yeah, it plays really well with WordPress and a couple other site or publishing site options. But forms are we would only be really as good as our integrations
Mhm.
to a large degree because
Right.
oftentimes people aren't using Jotform to look at the information within Jotform. They
Mhm.
need that information somewhere,
Mhm.
especially more advanced companies. They need CRMs, they need
Mhm.
email marketing, they need cloud
Right.
storage, like kind of wherever they're working,
Mhm.
project management, we needed clean integrations to be able to work with those
Mhm.
services. So we have an ever expanding list of integrations, but
Mhm.
that really kind of boils down to some of the same stuff we're talking about. It needs
Right.
to be able to save people time.
Right. Well,
That's
and
what
eliminate
we do.
mistakes. I mean, if you get it in one format and you're having to either manually re-enter or cut
Hmm.
and paste, you're going to have mistakes.
Yeah,
And
completely.
so if it just has seamlessly integrated, then if there's a mistake, it was their end.
Yeah, for sure. I
Cool.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, oh my gosh, we've only got about 5 minutes left, and this has been very cool. But I'm sure one of the things that people are going is this is gonna cost a lot.
Mm.
So, I love that you have a free version, and I always tell people try the free version first. Doesn't matter what it is, LinkedIn, try the free version first. But tell us a little bit more specifically about and there's so much on the website. I know you can't
Oh
really,
yeah.
but yeah, what are the various services and pricing levels that you offer?
We have a really generous free offering,
Mhm.
and we do that intentionally. And
Mhm.
we have users that have been using Jotform for 5, 10 years
Mhm.
and on the free service and
Mhm.
with no intention of upgrading, and that's fine. We give them the full suite of our
Mhm.
services and features and
I'm looking
products
at this
on them.
500 fields per form, not 500, 100.
Yeah,
um
big
500
form.
was the level of the next thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you take payments, it integrates with PayPal. I mean, all sorts of cool stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So, I would suggest if anyone's interested to just give it a whirl.
Mhm,
And we have really wonderful support guides, and our support team's great, and
mhm,
they service our free users all the same. So,
mhm,
yeah, it's super easy to get started, get going. The bulk of our users are on free plans,
mhm,
and they're totally happy. Yeah, the only limitations you're going to get are usage limitations,
mhm,
based on, as you mentioned, the fields in a form or the
mhm,
number of forms, but you still get, I believe, 5 in a free
mhm.
plan, 100 submissions a month, which
Right.
is pretty
Yeah.
pretty
So
good
if
amount. So
that's, if you're getting more than that, then you can afford to go up a level.
right, that's always where we stick. Yeah,
Mhm,
people,
mhm,
if it exactly, the businesses that are collecting that many more payments
mhm,
or getting that many more
mhm.
customers reaching out to them,
Right.
then typically they can afford. And
Mhm,
we're very reasonably priced, even beyond that. And
right.
of course,
Mhm,
we have 50% off to educators and to
mhm,
nonprofits. So
mhm,
so we get that baked into that scholarship application
mhm,
reference you're mentioning
mhm,
earlier. That's a very, very, very common
mhm.
Jotform use case. So
Right.
those are the kind of users that we serve.
And then I'm assuming if people say, Chad, we need a form to do this, you're happy to help them out.
I absolutely am. I absolutely am. And they are free to reach out to me anytime they'd like. Just chad@jotform.com.
Mhm.
You can find me on LinkedIn. There's a lot of Chad Reeds out there. I believe I should be like
Yeah.
the second or third. If you just
Mhm,
type in Chad Reed, Jotform,
mhm,
say that they heard
mhm.
this on the show or something. I'm always happy to facilitate and help out. Yeah.
Cool. I love it. And like I said, there's so many different things. Plus, you've got, your support system is on here. You've got a blog. How many times have we been able to just go and figure that out? You have videos. And I love that. We didn't even really talk about that, but
Oh man.
incorporating
Yeah.
videos is one of the coolest things now that people do with forms.
Yeah, it works right into our product, and then we have from a marketing standpoint. Yeah, feel free to visit our YouTube page. It's something that we're very proud of. I think
Mhm.
we're nearing 30,000 subscribers there,
Cool.
but we have
Mhm,
just a sea of
mhm,
content, a lot of tutorials, a lot of help
mhm,
guides. Anything that you have a specific question about,
mhm.
it's generally on there. You'll see my face all over our YouTube channel for better or worse. That's just part of it.
I
Yeah.
love it. Well, and like I was saying, you can't do anything anymore. You get stuck on something, you Google it, and then depending on what it is, you're going to drill down and say, okay, I want to watch a video on it. And I love it when the video walks me through it because I'll watch the video and do it, and then I'll watch the video and do it.
No, yeah, totally.
And that's what really works well. And so I love that you guys offer all of that.
Yeah, for sure. Great medium for getting what you need.
Mhm. I love it. Well, oh my gosh, Chad, this has been so much fun. And I really I'm actually launching a new website. And it's like, okay, I think we need to put this on there as opposed to some of the other ones that work and might not work and all sorts of stuff. Because, like I said, you've got templates, you've got all this stuff. And so, I'll definitely be looking into that. And I encourage the people who are listening and watching, check it out. I mean, it's just jotform.com. There's all sorts of cool stuff there. But do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
Um, Boy, not really. I think I've been a pretty effusive in my appreciation for forms. I would say just as a general rule of thumb, if you're stuck in your processes, or if you're doing something just because it's the way you've always done it, always look for, the technology is amazing right now, and there's probably a solution that'll save you time and help you focus on the work that really matters. So those are my final words. But yeah, certainly love to talk to anyone if they have any more questions, obviously.
Cool. I love it. I love it. Well, this really has been fun. And like I said, I can't wait to try some of this out. I'm Deb Creer. I've been having such a fun conversation with Chad Reid from Jotform. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.